I came to that valley, chasing quiet. After a year in the city that had stripped my nerves raw, I needed space somewhere. The air felt clean, and the nights didn't buzz with sirens and voices through thin walls. The house I found sat at the very end of a winding dirt road, small but solid, wrapped tightly by tall pine trees that whispered against the roof. Whenever the wind rose, there were only two other houses nearby, distant enough that their lights barely glowed at night. The silence felt like a promise. One neighbor lived uphill, an older man named Harold. His house was tall and crooked, the kind of structure that looked like it had grown out of the land instead of being built on it. From the beginning, something about him set my teeth on edge. He never waved, never nodded. Sometimes I'd glance up for my morning coffee and see him standing on his porch, perfectly still, watching my place like a statue carved from shadow. Our property shared a narrow gravel strip of shared access that led to my garage. That strip became the problem. It started quietly. Notes appeared under my windshield wiper, the paper damp with morning dew, written in shaky, angry letters. Don't park past the line. Stave off what's mine. The realtor had mentioned an old boundary disagreement. During the sale, some outdated survey issue, but the current maps were clear. Legally, the access was mine. I assumed Harold was just territorial, the kind of man who clung to old grudges and habits. I told myself we'd eventually sort it out. I was wrong. One afternoon, while trimming a bush near the edge of the strip, I felt eyes on me. Harold stood at his fence, face flushed, gaze sharp and distant. "You're on my land," he said, quietly. I straightened up. "I don't think so. I've got the survey if you want to look." "I've checked," he replied, colder now. "You people always push. Step back before there's trouble. You people." The words stuck in my chest. I didn't argue. I backed away. That night, my dog growled at the window, hackles raised. When I stepped outside with a flashlight, the woods were still, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave. By morning, a deep scratch ran down the side of my car, metal exposed beneath the paint. A week later, my sister Lena came over for dinner. We grilled out back, trying to enjoy the crisp mountain air, laughing like everything was normal. Then Harold's voice carried down the hill. "Keep it down and stay off my property." Lena frowned. What the hell was that? I told her about the boundary dispute. She laughed it off. Old guys and their fences? Later, her jacket slipped near the edge of the gravel strip. She stepped over to grab its hand. Harold appeared like he'd been waiting. A flashlight snapped on, blinding her. "Trespassing," he shouted. "You'll regret this." I ran over, heart pounding. "Leave her alone. She's leaving." His glare shifted to me. "This isn't over." The next morning, my mailbox lay smashed in pieces. After that, I locked up early, checked the doors twice. At night, I'd see Harold moving along the edge of the strip, rearranging rocks, planting shrubs, building invisible walls. The county told me it was a civil matter, so I hired a lawyer. Tom looked over the paperwork and frowned. "You're legally clear," he said, "but this man sounds unstable. Document everything." Tom sent Harold a formal letter. Harold never replied. Instead, he planted a line of thick shrubs straight down the middle of the access. I couldn't even reach my garage. I confronted him that evening. He was watering his yard with a rusted metal can. "You're blocking my access," I said. "The deeds are clear." "You've been invading my space since day one," he replied calmly. "I know your type." The smile he gave me wasn't friendly. It was a promise. Days later, my cat disappeared. I searched through the night. I found her by the road at dawn, still, twisted foam at her mouth. I buried her beneath the old maple tree, shaking so badly I could barely hold the shovel. When I looked up, Harold was watching from his porch. Then came the boulder. A massive slab of stone sat square in the middle of the access road, impossible to move. Rage took over. I started digging around it. That's when my friend Jake arrived to help with a gutter repair. "What the hell is that?" he asked. Harold's voice cut through the air. "Stop." He walked down the hill, something heavy tucked at his belt. I saw the metal glint as Jake called the police. The gunshot sounded like thunder. Jake fell. I ran. Bullets shattered glass. I locked myself inside as Harold advanced, muttering about trespassers. Sirens finally split the valley. Jake survived barely. Harold surrendered without a fight, still mumbling about defending his land. At trial, Harold never looked at me. The judge handed down a life sentence. I don't live there anymore. I chose a place with no shared roads, no neighbors in sight, but sometimes, when the wind presses against the walls at night, I still hear his voice. Get off my land. I was still under the coach that afternoon, tightening the iron rim on one of the wheels. When I felt it before, I saw it the thunder of hooves moving too fast for comfort. The sound tore through the quiet bushland near Lucan Station, sharp and frantic. I slid out from beneath the wagon just as a rider burst through the trees. The horse was blown, sides heaving, foam clinging to its bit. The rider didn't dismount. He barely slowed. He leaned down, shoved a folded paper into my grease-stained hand, and wheeled around without a word, riding back the way he came, like something was chasing him. The note was short, brutal, written in a jagged hand I knew too well. Your family's time on this land is finished. Leave now or face what's coming. No signature was needed. I knew it was from the Ryder boys. Our trouble with them had been rotting for years. Ever since Father claimed the northern plot, back then it was nothing but stone, scrub, and snake's butt. We cleared it, fenced it, turned it into something that could last. The law said it was ours. The valley didn't agree. To them, we were still outsiders, immigrants, men who crossed an ocean and dared to stay. I folded the note, tucked it inside my coat, and rode home slow, the wagon creaking behind me like it knew what waited ahead. That night, Mother kneaded dough with angry hands, slamming it against the table like she was beating the world into shape. Father sat by the fire, pipe clenched between his teeth, his eyes dull in a way prison had carved into him years ago. Prison earned fighting over the same cursed land. He read the note once, then again. They've decided, he said finally. Paper never mattered to them. Jane, my sister, sat near the window, hands twisting together. Men were watching the house today, she whispered, up by the trees. They didn't hide. I told her it was nothing, that they wouldn't dare. Even as I spoke, I knew I was lying. After that, the harassment grew bold. Tools vanished. Fence wires were cut. Horses spooked at night. One morning, a stone smashed through the kitchen window with a message tied to it. Squatters go home. Patrick Quigley confronted me days later, standing well on our side of the boundary, smiling like he already owned my grave. This was never your land, he said. Soon, everyone will know it. I told him to leave. He laughed. A judge's paper won't stop what's coming. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The house whispered with every gust of wind. My wife Nora felt it too. They're planning something, I told her. Then go to the constable, she said. I shook my head. Carol wears their badge. By morning, word spread that a Ryder barn had burned. By noon, they were saying we did it. The mob came riding before sunset, guns across saddles, hatred worn openly now. Father met them at the fence. We didn't burn anything, he said. The eldest Ryder leaned forward. Justice doesn't need proof. That night, we kept watch. I was by the barn, lantern low, rifle heavy in my hands, when I saw them three shapes slipping through the fence. One turned just enough for firelight to catch his grin. Soon, he said, everyone will know who belongs. Weeks dragged by like a blade pulled slow. The priest preached about wicked men poisoning the valley. His eyes never left us. Then, while I was away on a coach run, they struck Father, dragged him into town, accused him of arson, released him later, smiling. A warning. The fire came 2 nights after that. I woke to footsteps, dozens of them. I looked out the window and froze. Torches, masks, oil lamps, axes, guns. John opened the door before I could stop him. What do you want? He shouted. The gunfire answered. John fell where he stood. Bullets tore through the walls. Nora screamed. I dragged her to the floor as fire bloomed everywhere at once. In the flashes, I recognized faces, men I'd shared bread with. Someone shouted, enough for tonight. Then they were gone. At dawn, smoke marked the road to my parents' house. There was nothing left. Father, Mother, Tom, little Bridget, burned, beaten, left inside. The papers called it order restored. Trials were held, no one punished, witnesses forgot. I still live on that land. Some nights, when the wind moves through the boards just right, I hear them again warning me that peace was never real. And when the house creaks in the dark, I still reach for the rifle. Because once a place decides you don't belong, no paper and no prayer will save you